Ladies and gentlemen, the Old Head Radio app. A radio station completely curated by Old Head. Nothing but Old Head approved bangers all day, every day. Everything from well-loved classics to lesser-known deep cuts to underappreciated gems to modern-day bangers from all across the spectrum of rock and metal-related genres and subgenres. Also, the home of the live radio show Old Head Bangers Ball. Download the app now for iPhone or Android. Just search Old Head Radio. And we hope you enjoy the bangers. If Metallica asks you to do a video, you say yes. Hi everyone, welcome to the Load Box Set review video. Now, a lot of times I do these unboxings of these big box sets that I'm excited about, and that's kind of it. Like, I go through everything that's in it, I give my thoughts on that initial viewing of everything that's in it, and then I go and listen to it and watch it and blah, blah, blah. And then little by little, maybe in other things that I do, you'll get my little reviews of little bits of that particular box set. But in this particular case, if you don't remember, if you didn't see the unboxing, well, maybe go watch the unboxing first, or don't, because you're kind of getting a similar kind of thing here. But on that video, Metallica, as in the YouTube channel Metallica, commented on my video. First, kind of answering a question that I had in the unboxing, which I'll talk about later when I get into the stuff that's in the box and my thoughts on that stuff. But underneath their comment, they commented again saying they were looking forward to my thoughts in another video about the box set. So hence why this video is being made, because they are my favorite band in the entire world and have been for most of my life. And so if they want something, they're going to get it. Even the social media guy that that's been kind of interacting with me, I appreciate you, dude. But for the purposes of this particular video, let's just suspend disbelief and let's just say that it is actually Lars Ulrich that has been interacting with me. Hi, Lars. You're welcome to come on to the Old Head channel for an interview with me anytime, please. oldheadpodcast@gmail.com is my email address. Come on, let's get something fucking going. Bring the whole band. Bring everybody. Yeah, the more the merrier. We might as well, right? We're buds now. All right, sorry, enough of that. Lars and I will catch up later. What we're here for today are my thoughts on the Load box set. Yes, I went through and listened to and watched everything. And yes, that took a little time. But I thought, you know what, along from my review of the contents, which I will get to, I thought just to make this video a little bit more special, I'm going to talk about like my experience with the album, because I didn't really talk about that in the unboxing. And I'll share with you some of my OG Load era vinyl and CDs, because I can't talk about the album Load without talking about this guy right here, the Until It Sleeps CD single. This is where mine and many people's story began with this album, because this was the first thing that they released. They announced the album while I was working in the music department at Best Buy in 1996, and then as soon as this guy was in my store, I bought a copy, and I've loved this song ever since the first time I heard it. There were people I knew that didn't agree with me on that fact, but I thought it was fucking great. And the cover of Overkill on the B-side, on the B-side, track number 2, it's a fucking CD. But anyway, I ended up waiting in line at midnight on the night that Load was released at Tower Records, waiting in a line to go in and get my CD copy of Load. And I kind of had a rough relationship with it at first. I liked some of it. The rest of it had to grow on me, but grow on me it motherfucking did. And then I ended up seeing them on the Poor Touring Me tour in April, I believe it was April 30th, 1997 in Austin, Texas at the Frank Irwin Center, which was actually the last show before the Cunning Stunts show, or two shows, which were in San Antonio. And let me tell you, the ending of that show, the stage destruction, the guy on fire, all that shit, and Metallica coming out and playing underneath like the little light bulbs, that at that point, that was the best concert experience I'd ever had. But you know what? I promised Metallica a review of this box set, so that's what we're going to do now. Stay tuned for after the review. I'll show you some other goodies from the Load era that I have and talk a little bit more about it if you're interested. First up, the remastered version of Load. Now, here's the one good thing for me, because I normally don't really care about remasters because most of the time they don't sound better to me, and a lot of times they just make it too fucking loud. But I'm happy to say that they did not just crank up the volume on this remaster. Now, this right here is you see it's a little beat up. This is a 1996 US pressing of Load on Elektra Records. And I played the first couple songs on both of these back to back. And honestly, I couldn't really hear a huge difference. And that's a good thing because, you know, it's not easy to come across an OG vinyl. So for those of you who have this, it also sounds good. But not only that, this version of the album actually has the full version of the Outlaw Torn, which that's fucking awesome on its own. Next up is the Mama Said single picture disc that has Ain't My Bitch live from Lollapalooza on side B. I also have the OG version of this. So same exact thing. Picture disc looks the same songs. So there you go. If you don't have this, you got this now. All right. Up next, the Loadapalooza live vinyl from 96, full concert on vinyl. This is my favorite part of the box set, and honestly, the live vinyl is usually my favorite part of all of the box sets, just because I love listening to live shows on vinyl, especially Metallica, because they're, like I said, they're my favorite band of all time. But this show, it was in August of 1996, and then I would end up seeing them several months later. And this show, even though it's at Lollapalooza, it's a similar kind of set, similar kind of vibe. The thing that I really liked about the Load era tour is that it was kind of loose and fun, and it was almost just like they were just showing up. There were some buddies showing up to play for their other buddies in the crowd, and it really kind of broke down that barrier of like, oh, this is not just some big rock show. It's like a celebration, them and us, of their music, and that's a fucking blast. But yeah, great energy on this show, great songs, great performance, great pressing. It sounds really good. And I have to say one thing. After, you know, seeing Metallica when they came through this last weekend or two, how long has it been now? I don't know. When they came through Houston, the one thing when I was listening to this live vinyl is that I kind of miss super foul-mouthed James. Because and I know sometimes you grow up and that's not the way you talk anymore, but I'm approaching 50 and I'm still as foul-mouthed as ever. Some would say even worse. Oh, and I read through the big-ass book that's in here, too, and there are some great interviews in here. The Bob Rock interview is fucking great. There's an interview with Jason Newsted that's really good. A little piece with the guy that did the art for the album. It's great. Tons of great photographs and a whole bunch of other shit. This is just like every box set they do. The book is also fantastic. Okay, moving on to the bulk of the content here. We'll talk about these three CDs first, the Shadowcast CDs. First up, Shadowcast discs 1 and 2. The thing that I really enjoyed about all three of these particular discs together is if you listen to it from this one, in order, discs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it almost takes you on this journey of the metamorphosis of the songs that ended up being on Load. So this one, you have a lot of riff tape stuff, which it's cool because that's the way that I've always written songs. Now, instead of using a tape recorder, I use the voice notes app on my phone. But yeah, you think of a riff, you turn the fucking thing on and you play a little bit of the riff and then you stop it. And then those are on here. And some of the riffs are kind of alternate versions as to what they became, and sometimes there's even little extra bits thrown in, and sometimes they're bits that I go, ooh, that was really cool, and then there's other times I'm like, ooh, I'm glad they cut that part. And then it goes into the demos, which for those of you who've been listening to a lot of the Metallica stuff over the years, the demos are usually just James and Lars playing together. And whenever there needs to be some kind of vocal melody, a lot of times James has not written the lyrics yet, and there's a whole lot of na 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 na, yeah, yeah, going on. What I like to call the na na yeah whoa vocals. The thing that popped up on this one that I did not know that I think is very cool is that originally Ain't My Bitch began where the guitars and drums dropped out and it was just the bass guitar. So it was like like it was a bass solo part there, which I thought was very cool. I don't know if it's better than the way they did it on the album, but it's very cool to hear it that way. Also, we find out very early on that Mama Said was pretty much already fully formed, so that was kind of a song that James had kind of written on his own. And then there are vocal idea tracks, so this is all interesting. So this is all just building on demos. It's all starting off, you got some riffs, and then you've got, a little song structure that you're playing along to. You put some wah, nah, yeah, woes on top of it. But then you got to come back and you got to start filling in the wah, nah, whoa, woes with some words and some other ideas. And so it's just these songs, the building blocks of all of these songs, and you're hearing them all come together. And a lot of these were recorded in Lars's dungeon, which was a little studio he had at his house, which I'm assuming that's not his same house anymore. A bigger Metallica fan will be able to tell me what Lars's house is like now. Maybe when Lars and I connect and become best buds, I'll get his address and I'll let you know what his house is like. Anyway, the evolution of the demos throughout these is very cool. The demo for Ronnie, the lyrics are different than what they end up being on the album. And I would like to go on record and say that the final version lyrics are way better. Now we're on to Shadowcast disc 3 and 4. At this point, you get into the actual recording session and you get to hear these different versions of the fully recorded songs. I'm assuming that these were done for the drum track part of the song. Maybe they kept other stuff from some of the takes too, but from the way they recorded songs in the past, I have a feeling that's what it was. So it's the band all playing together and there are no vocals, which is kind of cool because hearing the instrumentals of some of these songs, some of the riffs that maybe were a little bit covered up by vocals, you get to hear these little things that, I don't know, because the songs themselves are deceptively simple. Some parts are, compared to older Metallica stuff, yes, they're more simple, but there are little things in the riffs and in the leads that I'll hear and I'll go, oh, that's pretty fucking great. And sometimes it doesn't come through clearly when the vocals are on top. So hearing these kind of stripped back from the vocals and just the band playing in a room, it's actually pretty cool. Honestly, I'm just curious what the selection process was like, because for NC-17, which ended up being Thorn Within, it says it's take 18. So like, first off, how many takes did it take? But also, like, why did they choose that particular one? Like, I would be interested to be a fly on the wall while they're putting it all together. Like, you don't got to ask me for my opinion, but I just like the idea of like, here, we're choosing this particular take because of this and this, as opposed to the other 17 that, whoever's job that is, that's a fucking sweet job. I would like that job. Thanks. And then on disc 4, you get some rough mixes of the songs, and sometimes they are slightly different arrangements from what ends up being on the final album, and sometimes there's different vocals on them than what end up on the final album. I love the fact that these songs were still evolving in the studio, and we get to hear it because it really lets you get to know all of these songs in a much bigger way than you did before. And even the first studio rough mix of Ain't My Bitch had that soloed bass guitar at the beginning of it, which is fucking sweet. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of these have just some little differences. If you know the final versions very well, then you'll hear these different things, different effects, different ways that they're mixed, some different solos or leads here and there. And it's just fascinating to hear everything get tweaked to perfection. Okay, and finally, disc 5 of Shadowcast. More rough mixes on here, all kinds of different mixes of different songs. On one of the mixes of Bleeding Me, there's a fucking organ on it. I don't remember there being an organ on the final one. Maybe it's very low in the mix and my really shitty ears can't pick it out. But that's another thing that I'm like, oh, could you bring that back in the song? Let's get an organ player in the band now. And probably my favorite part of this disc is hearing the completely stripped back version of Mama Said with just James and a guitar. Honestly, I think that is my favorite version of that song. The one on the album is great, but something about that song, it feels like it's supposed to be just James and a guitar, and I love hearing it that way. All right, moving on. Escape from the Studio, 95. This is a great sounding full live show. And at the end, there's a couple bonus tracks from another live show. One thing I really liked from this is there's a great mix of the crowd in this. Like sometimes mixing crowd noise into a live performances, it's kind of hit or miss because sometimes it's overbearing and sounds like it's too much, and other times you can barely hear it. But this one, it's one of those live recordings that it feels like you're right there at the show. And they played The God That Failed on this. I don't even think there's a live version of The God That Failed on the Black Album box set. And speaking of the bass guitar, you get Jason doing his funky God of Thunder bass solo kind of thing, which is always really cool. And also you hear an early performance of Devil's Dance, which didn't come out until Reload, but it was already ready to go. They were playing that at a lot of shows. They were playing 2x4 and Devil's Dance, and I guess they just saved one of those songs for the next album. All right, I feel like I'm taking too long. Club shows and rehearsals. This has a really cool full show from 96 at Slim's, which is just an absolute blast of a show. And then it has a couple of rehearsal recordings, and then a concert at the Odeon in Cleveland in 97, which it looks like it was sponsored by a radio station. And somebody in one of my comments, they were talking about how that venue is like really small. So that's another cool thing they were doing around this time. They were playing some of those small venues. What I wouldn't give to see Metallica in just a theater-sized venue. That would be fucking awesome. Okay, moving on to another one of my favorite parts of this, even though I'd heard a good amount of these before, the B-sides and rarities disc. So this includes the Motorhead covers that a lot of people have heard because they were B-sides or they were on Garage Inc. Several years later. But this has all the B-sides, the edits, the remixes. God, I miss remixes. Can rock bands start doing that shit again? Yeah, I know you're a rock and roll band, but just give your fucking song to Moby and let him fuck that shit up, because those are the kind of B-sides I love. Live B-sides, great. Give me like one of those. But if there's anything else, I want it to be something fucking weird that I wasn't expecting. And you get some of those on this disc right here. All right, and now Poor Norwegian Me 96. This is another full live concert with some rehearsal tracks at the end. A very similar concert to the one that I ended up seeing. So your basic Load era concert here, but sounds great and full thing right here. And then it brings us to kind of the reason why we're here, because this was the disc that made Metallica comment on my last video. The Poor Touring Me 96-97, the soundboard tapes. Now, at first, I thought this was a recording that they had released in one of the fan cans, which was literally while they were recording the album, they let the tapes run and they just noodled around on cover songs and other bullshit. And it's a really fun disc that you have to have the fan can to listen to, or it's probably on YouTube. Who the fuck knows? But according to the Metallica comment on my last video, this is a collection of 28 live tracks from 27 concerts throughout the arena tour, all unreleased and none released in a fan can. So this is very cool because it's almost kind of like just a collection of all the songs, for the most part, that they played throughout that tour, all from different cities from that tour. Unfortunately, there is not one from Austin. Boo-hoo. That would have been cool, but you know. The sound quality is not as good as some of these other live recordings, but these come directly from the soundboard, and so there's really no crowd noise, and so that's also kind of an interesting way to listen to some of these tracks. Overall, this was a really fun disc, and just like Metallica said in my comment, it's very special. I agree. Okay, moving on to the DVDs. Studio Shit plus UK Shenanigans. Now this is some fan can shit. There's fan can shit on here, but And I've only watched the VHS of this fan can stuff one time, but it seems to me like there's a lot more here, and it's on DVD. So quality upgrade there. But I'll tell you what, man, I love the studio shit, the behind the scenes stuff on making an album. Honestly, I wish that Metallica would make a year and a half of the life of Metallica part 1 type movie for every single album they put out, because first off, that's my favorite movie of all time, full stop. I know it's a documentary, but it goes above. Like if somebody said you can put on any DVD that you want, it doesn't matter what it is, it's going to be a year and a half in the life of Metallica, because it's like my comfort DVD. Needless to say, though, I love behind the scenes and studio shit. I love seeing it all come together. It's so much fun. If you haven't watched the one they did for Making Magnetic, when they did Death Magnetic, they didn't put it together like in a documentary type movie, but you watch like a whole lot of footage in the studio, and it is fucking great. And this is also fucking great. So yeah, there's also some stuff from Lars's Dungeon when he and James were working on some demos, and the week and a half in the life of Metallica, which is also from the fan can when they're in London and they play Castle Donington. And it's honestly, this out of the 3 DVDs, this is probably the most fun, especially if you've never seen it before. Honestly, I'd say this is worth the whole fucking box if you've never seen this before. Okay, next up, this one's fucking sweet. Polar Beach Party. So this is from 1995 in Canada, in a city, Tuktoyaktuk. Somebody in the other video commented and said it's cringy hearing somebody mispronounce that word. So let me get the pronunciation correct. Go fuck yourself. Anyway, this is a really fun show. It's in a fucking tent to a small crowd, and it's the whole show. And this is Metallica with that kind of smaller crowd energy, and it is an absolute blast. It's a great show with great sound, and this was a show they played with Hole, Veruca Salt, and Moist, which that's a interesting grouping of bands, but obviously Metallica headlined. And then after that whole performance, there's the week and a half in the life of Metallica from the fan can stuff, part 3 from Tuktoyaktuk. Is that good? Next up, Poor Swedish Me, 1996, the full Stockholm, Sweden show. Now I don't know what my favorite is of the DVDs, because I love the Polar Beach Party, but this one, so this is the Poor Touring Me era Load concert, very much like the one that you see on Cunning Stunts. I'm going to go on record and say this is better than Cunning Stunts. There's a better energy here. The rawness to it makes it a lot more enjoyable. I love Cunning Stunts, don't get me wrong. But see, this is so much fun. If you're into this era of Metallica live, this is another selling point of this box set. I mean, they play Bleeding Me on here, and it is so good. All right, last but certainly not least, on the air plus TV appearances. So this is all the Load music videos, and then even other versions of the Load music videos. So there's an uncut, like a director's cut of Hero of the Day. And honestly, the only difference that I could truly see is there's a little more like sex action happening when the girl comes over to the guy's house. And then there's a UK version and a US version, and watching them back to back, I could not tell you what the difference is. They must be subtle. Maybe someone who's watched those videos several times can tell me in the comments what the actual differences are from the UK to the US version, but still a fucking great video. And then there's the Mother Load, which was the MTV contest they did. The US one is on one of the fan can VHSs, but once again, now it's on DVD. And I remember watching this when it happened on MTV and watching the guys, the people had to choose a semi. There was 4 different semis, and they each chose one. The finalists chose one. My brain's all over the place. Anyway, you get the idea. And then each one of them had something in it. They all won something, but one of them won Metallica. They were in the back of the fucking truck, and they showed up and they played a fucking show and hung out with them. And it's just the kind of prize that, like, I hate whoever won it. I'm just like, fuck you. You don't deserve this. But the thing that I didn't know is they did that shit twice. They did one in the UK too. So my UK peeps are like, oh yeah, we watched that too, but it was different people. And so that was fascinating to watch. The whole thing, another contest happened again over in England. And then after that, there's live TV performances. The first thing that I want to say that I am so mad at, no, first off, fuck Top of the Pops. But Top of the Pops made them lip sync to their own song. So it's literally recorded at a live show with a live audience, but they put like, TOTP or whatever, above them, above their stage, and they're literally miming the fucking song. And honestly, in 1996, if I was Metallica, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. But they were troopers and they did it. And yeah, that's why shows like that need, well, I think that show already is dead. So good riddance. A little bit later, there's some performances from Jools Holland, which is a British show for those of you who don't know. But the performance of Wasting My Hate on Jools Holland is fucking awesome. And there's a solo performance of Mama Said with just James. And it's beautiful. All of that is on this disc right here. And all of that is available in the Load Deluxe Box Set, which you should go buy right now. I'm not even getting paid for this. All I'm getting is a trip to go hang out with Lars for the weekend, right? I think I'm just waiting for that email. Anyway, so for those of you who still want to stick around, that you're not bored of me yet, I'm going to show you some other Load era shit. Some more CDs. I got the Mama Said single here that's got a couple. I mean, I'm sure all these tracks are in some way on the box set, but these are just ones that I had before. There's another Mama Said one that has like some different tracks on the B-sides there. Here's a Hero of the Day single. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but these it slides out like that. Like that's pretty unique, because they made them like that for a little while, these CD singles, but I guess they don't make CD singles at all anymore. So there you go. Oh, and that one has like a live track on I keep saying B-side. It's just another track on the fucking CD. And then I have the King Nothing one. There's also the slidey thing there, and it's got the Ain't My Bitch Live going on there. And then I have another Until It Sleeps, but this one had extra B-sides and stuff. And honestly, like, I ended up collecting a lot of this Load era stuff because Load doesn't get enough respect, in my opinion. I understand it was a big shift in their sound at the time, and some people weren't ready for it. But it's been long enough that you need to embrace the fact that it's just a fucking great album. But because of the fact that there aren't like shitloads of people that love this album, I thought that the Metallica box sets were going to end with the Black Album. I just assumed. I assumed that like they would just move on to doing like smaller anniversary releases. But I'm very happy that they ended up doing this. And obviously Reload is probably going to get a box set. And the one that I can't wait for is Saint Anger. The Saint Anger box set. I'm going to put this out into the universe. Metallica, Lars, or social media representative, if you were watching, here's my hope. Here's my hope. So there's all those songs that they recorded, before James went into rehab. There's all those little bits of stuff, tons of music, some of which got used in certain ways later, and some that did not. Just put all of that fucking shit, all of the studio footage, all of it, or if you really want to make me happy, construct an entire new fucking documentary out of everything that you have and put it in that box set. I'm so ready for it. Saint Anger is truly one of the most underappreciated albums and misunderstood albums in the history of music. That's just my opinion. You're welcome to feel however you want, and you're wrong. Also, I've got this Until It Sleeps 10-inch record, and that's got a couple cool B-sides on the back here, but it's, red vinyl, very nice. And then last but not least, I have a 12-inch single of Hero of the Day. If you look on the back there, that's what's going on the back. Once again, all these things on the box set on CDs, not on vinyl here. And then you pull this out, and it's got this cover here, which is very nice, and that cool sort of moody shot of the dudes on the back, Lars enjoying a beer. So that's can you see what's on that? That's what's on this one. Anyway, so clearly I ended up becoming a big fan of this album, and it's just because it's fucking great. It may not have been what I was expecting, but As I've said many, many times in many different videos all over my YouTube channel, the fact that Metallica did Load Reload, fucking Garage Inc., fucking Saint Anger, Lulu, the Through the Never movie, Some Kind of Monster, all of that stuff. All of those things all together are what make Metallica my favorite band of all time. If they had continued to put out versions of Master of Puppets or And Justice for All for the rest of eternity, like a whole lot of other bands are doing, it would be very boring, and maybe I would still like it, but they would not be my favorite band of all time. It's them taking the chances and doing different shit and saying, hey, this may not work, but fuck it. And even in the instances where it's not as good as other stuff, in my opinion, that they've done, it doesn't matter. It's all the story of the band, and it's what makes their discography so fucking awesome, and it's what keeps people like me forking over the money for this shit, because I feel like as a fan, they've really given me a whole lot to enjoy for just being four dudes. So anyway, all right. No more of that. I'm sorry. We'll get the Metallica content will be ending for a little bit until I have something else to talk about. But there's plenty of other stuff. If you haven't seen like the other videos I do a podcast called Cranked and Ranked with my buddy Eddie Sparks from England, where we rank band discographies, all kinds of different bands, and it's a blast. And also I do a bunch of other videos here on YouTube. Just go look around on my channel, and I hope you enjoy some of it. And also I hope that Metallica enjoyed this video. Okay. That's it. That's all I got, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all again very soon.